Hello, old school comic book reviews, random old school comics. This is Marvel Spotlight on the Submariner. Marvel Spotlight issue number 27 from 1976. Let's see here. The story is by Bill Mantlo and the art is by Jim Mooney. Basically, Marvel Spotlight was kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of an anthology comic. Each issue was a different character or a different concept or whatever. And sometimes it was all new characters, sometimes it was characters that didn't have their own comic. And at this particular point in time, Submariner's comic was canceled, and I think he was co-starring in super-villan team-up along with Dr. Doom. This is basically a one-and-done story. It basically describes... it kind of gets the person, the reader, kind of caught up with who the Submariner is and how he fits in with the Marvel universe. Let's see here. He has a fight with a bad guy, and that's basically it. Death is the Symbiotic Man. The first few pages start off with Namor. He's on Easter Island, and let's see here. The dialogue is here's something funny on the splash page. Well, it's not funny, but Namor is looking at those old ancient statues, and he says, "Ever do the surface men seek to proclaim their monumental egoism, crying out that their ancestors knew of the secrets from the stars, and thus they built these space-scanning idols? By Neptune, they are fools indeed, that they do not see the true direction of the statue's gaze, that the unseen eyes stare towards the sea." And then basically Namor goes on to this kind of monologue describing, the history of Atlantis, and it shows him here fighting, basically fighting Nazis. There's nothing in the dialogue that actually says that it's World War II and that it's Nazis, but it's basically it. He's like destroying a U-boat and whatever. You see a little swastika there. And then the next page, he talks about his meeting with other surface men. You see pictures of the Avengers and the Defenders and the Fantastic Four. There's a little panel of him fighting the Incredible Hulk. And then you see him, it looks like he's scowling at Dr. Doom. Like I said, at that particular time, he was in super-villan team-up. And then he, smashes one of the Easter Island statues because, it says, "Too long Namor has neglected his duties. Too long has he allowed himself to be diverted from the task that is truly his. No longer let there be an end to it." And basically there's a little footnote that says something about how the Atlanteans are in suspended animation because of some nerve gas or something like that. I guess this is probably like the end of his original series or something like that, which is why he's walking around on the surface. Okay, next thing we get to is, while he's out there, pontificating, whatever, there's been an airship that's kind of been following him around and watching him. And then we see what's going on inside the airship. There's this kind of evil, corrupt general-looking guy who has like an artificial man in a tank, And, the bad guy is going on and on and on about how there's this artificial man and he's trying to bring him back to life to control and rule him and stuff like that. And we get here, blah, 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 blah. "You must be made to think freely. Only then will you be of any use to me. The first super soldier ever to strive the earth. The creation of Captain Ruth Simon Riker." And then there's a little footnote at the bottom of the page where it says, "We bet all you Deathlock readers know who he is. Marv." And Marv is Marv Wolfman, who was writer and editor at Marvel Comics at that time. So basically, our guy, releases the artificial man into the sea, right? And he kind of comes to life or whatever, and he's swimming around, and Namor's in there swimming around, and the symbiotic man has these little tentacles with these little suction cups on them, right? and he sees Namor, and he sucks, he sucks him onto Namor, and he's basically absorbing his strength and his energy and things like that, and there's kind of a fight going on and all this sort of thing. And then Namor is able to get loose, and then the guy or the thing kind of flies off or whatever, or goes away, I should say. And then he takes control of an octopus. And so then, he absorbs the octopus's strength, and he's controlling the octopus, and he makes the octopus fight Namor, right? And then, Namor's fighting the octopus, and he gets loose, and he swings the octopus around, and then he flings it out of the sea, and he flings it so hard that the octopus goes out of the sea, and it crashes into the airship, and it smashes the airship, and you see, Captain Riker, and he's like, "No, it's impossible! No!" And basically the airship, is damaged, and it falls into the sea somewhere. And then, the symbiotic man is kind of like free of Captain Riker's control, right? And he's like, "No, Namor, my time is done. I never had any harm to wish harm to you. Yet my thoughts were not my own, but another's." So we find out that, the symbiotic man really didn't want to fight. He was just being controlled by the bad guy. And he appears to maybe die or whatever. He goes lifeless, so, whatever. And then on the last page, Namor goes into this another monologue, and he says, "If he said was true, then he's no more than a pawn of the surface men. And his death is to be laid at their door, along with the provable death of countless others, and the probable death of the Atlantean people, as if my realm were no more than a testing ground for the surface men's wars. Well, no more! I am Namor, Prince of the Eternal Deeps, Namor, the Avenging Sun. Let all who defile my realm know that they must face me and the mighty power of the Submariner." And then there's a little caption here. It says, "Men call him Namor, Prince of the far-fabled Atlantis, Emperor of the Deeps. He is all of that and more, and no man will ever truly know him." And then there's a little blurb at the very bottom. It says, "Like to see Subby sail back into a mag of his own? Well then write and let us know. And watch the next issue as the mighty Marvel brings you Fandral the Dashing, Hogan the Grim, Volstagg the Valorous, together as the Warriors 3. The only thing about that, issue 28 and 29 actually were stories about Moon Knight, and Warriors 3 didn't show up until issue 30. But anyway, actually this is pretty good fun issue here. It's a nice solid one and done story by Bill Mantlo, who was a pretty prolific writer for Marvel during the late 70s and during the 80s. Art by Jim Mooney is very good. Pretty much in the Marvel style at the time, pretty much influenced. It looks very John Buscema-esque, as I guess you would say. Let's see here. What else here? The ads in here, typical ads that you saw in every other comic during the mid-late 70s. Lots of classified ads for comics and X-ray specs and weight building machines and gizmos. Slim Jims, Cell Grit. There's an ad here for Spider-Man action figures and models. There's a big ad here. Make money customizing cars, vans, cycles, and buggies. Remember dune buggies? Remember customized vans? I'm just old enough to remember, back in the day, in the late 70s, where you would just see people out on the street with their vans, and they always have some sort of painting on the side of the van, some big airbrush, and a lot of times it was either some Frank Frazetta thing, or some Conan the Barbarian thing, or some space thing, or something like that. So I guess this little thing here, if you send money, they teach you how to customize your van, Let's hear the letters page says Spotlight Mail. A previous issue had adaptation of the movie The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and one of the letters, and I don't know if this is correct or not, or, well, not that it's correct, but it's written by Kim Thompson. And there was a Kim Thompson that used to be the editor of Comics Journal along with Gary Groth, so I'm not sure if that's the same Kim Thompson, but he has like a negative letter about the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and somebody else had a positive letter about that. And at the bottom of the letters page, they have Marvel Value Stamp, which is a piece of like an illustration. And I guess if you got all the pieces together, they would make a picture. Now I can tell here that this is a piece of like the Red Skull's head, and it looks like he's holding a gun here. And I'm pretty sure this is like a Jack Kirby drawing of Captain America. Thing is, like I said, when I was really young, just learning to read and reading comics, you know, getting comics from other kids and stuff, sometimes they would cut the Marvel's value stamp out. So you'd be reading the comic, and there'd be this this space that somebody had razor bladed out, you know. And you'd be like, oh man, you know. I think as a little kid though, you know, I wasn't mad that, oh, the comic book was damaged. I was more mad that I couldn't, you know, guess or try to figure out what the picture was or whatever. But, you know, that's like I said, back in the times when we were like 10, 11 years old, didn't really care that much, you know. Comic books were these fun, disposable things. It wasn't till a few years, you get a few years older, then you're like, oh no, we must protect the comic, you know. Don't damage the comic. Let's see here. What else is in here? There's an ad for Crazy, which was Marvel Comics version of Mad Magazine. There's an ad for Foom. It says Jack's back in the latest issue of Foom. Foom was the kind of fan magazine you got that if you were part of the Marvel Comics fan club. And so Foom was FOOM, which was Friends of Old Marvel. And there's a picture here that a self-portrait where Jack has drawn himself. Looks like he's leaping through the pages, you know, in a superhero suit, and he's got one hand, it's like a metal fist with like a pin in it, and his other hand has like a cigar in it. That's just awesome. There's, you know, weightlifting courses stuff in here, other stuff for Marvel merchandise. You got a Hostess ad here with Spider-Man and the Cupcake Caper. I can't tell who the art here is. It kind of looks, maybe it's Don Heck. Maybe. I'm not 100% certain though. What else is here? And then, on the bulletins page, you know, Stanley's soapbox, promotions for other stuff that's going in here. Stuff about how Doc Strange, Luke Cage, and Marvel 2-in-1 are no longer bi-monthly, they're monthly. Here's a thing promoting the value stamps. Oh, here it is. Here's something interesting. Here is an announcement that they're coming out with a new character called Nova. It says, a brand new action-packed superhero from the titanically talented typewriter of marvelous Marv Wolfman and the pulsating pencil power of Big John Buscema. We don't want to say too much about the most spectacular new superhero ever, but we do think you'll dig him when he finally does appear. As for when, we're not sure if we'll start him off with a special appearance in Marvel Premiere or go right ahead with his own magnificent mag. Either way, keep an eye peeled to these bullpen pages. We think you'll be glad you did. And some more stuff here. Jack Kirby's coming back. Here's another interesting thing people might like. It says, item. They say that old soldiers never die, they just fade away. But it seems that Nick Fury, one-time sergeant of the Howling Commandos and now fighting director of S.H.I.E.L.D., not only doesn't fade away, he doesn't get older either. Well, that just doesn't make sense. It's just our sneaky way of telling you that Jumpin' Jim Starlin and Howlin' Howie Chaykin have gotten together to work on an issue of Marvel Spotlight, giving you fearless front-facers the inside info on why Fury looks younger now than he did back in the big war. You don't want to miss this one, true believers. Basically, this was the story that explained that Nick Fury is still young because of the Infinity formula yeah, the infinity formula that I guess somebody experimented on with them and blah 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 blah. And so yeah, that's it. Pretty fun issue. You know, nice art. Oh, I didn't mention. We have a nice, really, really cool cover by Gil Kane. Gil Kane was doing lots of covers for Marvel Comics at this point. You know, a lot of times he didn't do the interiors; he was just doing covers. But if you just pick up a random issue of a random Marvel comic, chances are that at this point, Gil Kane did the cover. Matter of fact, Gil Kane did the covers. And if he didn't do the cover, then Jack Kirby was doing the covers. So that's it. Just wanted to share that with you. I got to thank you very much. And you all have a good one. Wow.